Good evening and welcome to Source 16 News at 10. Well, a winter storm warning has been issued for portions of the viewing area, while some other counties are still under a winter weather advisory. With the huge snowflakes falling around the viewing area at this hour, we're already seeing quite a bit of accumulation. So let's check in with meteorologist David Bryan on what we can expect overnight. David?
Well, Tammy, once that snow started, it has continued to come down during the evening hours, and that has prompted some changes since the 6 o'clock hour. You'll notice here in the dark blue, the winter weather advisory has been expanded to include Hopkins County all the way down through Caldwell, then over toward Marshall, and includes now Callaway and also the Mayfield area over in Graves County, where we could see 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. And then the big change has been for Trigg, over here in Hopkinsville for Christian County, then over into Todd, up into Muhlenberg, where we do have this winter storm warning in effect. We could see 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, and it looks like that's just going to continue to occur during the overnight into early tomorrow morning. Notice down to the south, though, where they are also under a winter storm warning, we could see 4 to even 8 inches of snowfall for portions of Middle Tennessee during the overnight hours. As it continues to fall overnight into the early morning hours, gradually wraps up, and I think we may even actually see a little bit of sunshine by tomorrow afternoon. But between now and then, we've got some snowfall to deal with. We'll have more coming up Maine weather in just a few minutes. Tammy?
Thank you, David, and hopefully we won't have any more. It won't climb any more as we get ready to have your weather forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. And remember, a winter storm warning for heavy snow means severe winter weather conditions are expected or occurring. Significant amounts of snow are forecast that will make travel dangerous, so only travel in an emergency. If you must travel, keep an extra flashlight, food, and water in your vehicle in case of an emergency. And if you're under a winter weather advisory, that means that periods of snow will cause primarily travel difficulties. Be prepared for snow-covered roads and limited visibilities, and please use caution while driving. But again, this evening, if you don't have to be out, stay home. Meanwhile, as Source 16 News reported last night, a national salt supply shortage is causing many states, including Kentucky, to be in conservation mode on salt usage. The shortage is also affecting the Christian County Road Department salt supply.
Well, we have a problem too with short supply. We got roughly 250 tons still on order, and we've been waiting for a number of weeks. We're promised the salt, and but everybody's out, and it's salt suppliers out. They promised me there's a barge coming, but we haven't received it yet. So yeah, we're looking at roughly 250 tons still waiting.
According to Chambers, hundreds of pounds of salt was used during last week's snowfall.
Generally, on a day-to-day basis, when we run our routes, we'll run roughly about 100 tons per day on a route. So right now, we've used 200 tons the last 2 days. And of course, we've had more than those episodes. So we use roughly about $28,000 to $30,000 worth of salt.
Highway crews in Kentucky and Tennessee are conserving on salt over the next couple of weeks until inventories are replenished. In other news, a Clarksville man has been charged with criminal homicide after he allegedly shot his friend in the head. Clarksville police responded to a call that a subject had been shot at an apartment on Lincoln Drive in Lincoln Home Subdivision this morning around 11:30. When police arrived, they found 25-year-old Vincent Ventron Perry of Clarksville dead inside with an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Clarksville police report 21-year-old Stephen Taylor Anderson was identified as a suspect, and he was arrested around 11:45. During a statement to police, Anderson admitted that he shot his friend in the head and that it was an accident while he was playing with the gun. Police say Anderson still had blood on his hands and clothing. He is being held in the Montgomery County Jail without bond. Makeup days and a draft budget that includes a property tax rate increase and an employee pay raise were approved by the Christian County Board of Education during tonight's meeting. With another school day hanging in the balance because of wintry weather tonight, board members unanimously approved February 11th, the 21st, and April 21st as 3 makeup days. Meanwhile, the 2011-12 draft budget includes a 4% property tax increase and 1% employee raise despite federal stimulus money not being budgeted.
What we have based the budget on is the shortfall that has been announced for the SEEK funding. resulted in a reduction of SEEK funding across the state and for Christian County in the amount of $748,313.
In other business, Barry Cornelius was re-elected board chairman and Sheila Cottrell was elected as board vice chairman, and Jack Lackey Jr. was reappointed as school board attorney. In other action, a motion to endorse a smoke-free Kentucky Coalition resolution failed, with Betsy Glover and Linda Keller voting no and Mary DeBoe not voting. Christian County School Board also approved renovations worth nearly $300,000 to the running track at the Stadium of Champions. Charred furniture and walls of a Butler Road residence is all that remains of a mobile home following an electrical fire this afternoon. The Highland Volunteer Fire Department responded to 3092 Butler Road and reports most of the damage was caused to the back of the home. According to firefighters on the scene, no one was injured at the time of the blaze. Fire Chief Henry Jaco told Source 16 what he believes caused the fire.
We had a house that was smoke coming out of the rear of it. It appears to be that it was a electrical fire, that either a electrical appliance sparked and caught the back end of the trailer on fire. So have minimal damage at this point, a lot of smoke damage, but we were able to contain it in the hallway of the trailer.
According to Jaco, this is the second time the fire department has responded to the residence owned by Barbara Gibbs. A 31-year-old Hopkinsville woman injured when her vehicle was hit by a train on East 1st Street last year has filed a civil lawsuit against CSX Transportation. According to court records, Natasha Hobson and her husband Carl filed the lawsuit claiming on January 14, 2010, her vehicle was hit by a CSX train due in whole or part to negligence by CSX. Court records indicate that the couple are seeking compensation for pain and suffering, loss of wages, and more since the time of the accident. The complaint states that the defendant, CSX Transportation, has known about the line of sight problems at the intersection where the wreck occurred and failed to correct the defect. According to the Hopkinsville police report, Hobson told officers she did not see the flashing railroad lights at the track, but the train operator stated he observed the lights flashing and two other vehicles stop at the tracks. The train operator also told police that Hobson did not stop or even slow down before she crossed the tracks, and he crashed into her car, pushing it about 350 feet. Mayfield Mayor Teresa Cantrell is encouraging Mayfield and Graves County residents and business owners to put their money where their lives are. The Mayfield-Graves County Chamber of Commerce hosted an Eggs and Issues breakfast for residents and business owners this morning. Newly elected Mayor Cantrell stressed that she is working hard to change the perception of Mayfield and its small economy.
Our communities in small towns in America, we all would agree that we're all struggling. We've bought into the idea as Americans that in the marketing realm that bigger is better and newer is better. When we do that, we ignore the opportunities that are literally beneath our noses.
While Cantrell asked the local residents and businesses to support and invest in local merchants in Graves County, Judge Executive Tony Smith delivered a surprising message, saying the county has one of the lowest tax rates and debt ratios in Western Kentucky. On the last day to file as a candidate for the May primary election, Jefferson County's clerk has decided to throw her hat in the ring to run for governor of Kentucky. Republican Barbara Bobby Halsclaw of Louisville filed her candidacy papers today with the Secretary of State's office and lists her running mate for lieutenant governor as Bill Vermillion Jr. of Caneyville. In the upcoming primary, the pair will face off against Republicans Phil Moffitt of Louisville and his running mate Mike Harmon of Danville, as well as Senate President David Williams of Burkesville and Agriculture Commissioner Richie Farmer. No one has filed to run in the May primary election against Democrat Governor Steve Beshear and his running mate, Louisville Mayor Jerry Abramson. Meanwhile, Democrat John Ferris Lackey, a Richmond attorney, is the latest to file for the Commissioner of Agriculture seat. He will be up against other Democrats, David Lynn Williams of Glasgow, B.D. Wilson of Frankfort, Stuart Gritton of Lawrenceburg, and Robert Bob Farmer of Louisville. On the Republican side, State Representative Jamie Comer of Tompkinsville and Bob Rothenberger of Shelbyville have filed for the office. For a complete look at the entire slate of candidate filings, check out the Secretary of State's website at sos.ky.gov. A deceased animal removal program got a much-needed boost in funds this morning. During fiscal court, the Christian County Conservation District presented Judge Executive Steve Tribble with a $5,000 grant.
We almost lost that program last year. Remember, we had a series of meetings last year. The company that we contracted with for years, Griffin Industries, went out of business. So we had a request for proposal. We had 4 companies bid on it, and we entered into an agreement with the company that had the best bid. But and so we pay them a certain amount of money per month to pick up the animals on call. But now we have a program where the people who have the animals that are deceased pay a copay.
In other business, magistrates unanimously approved a $250,000 community development block grant to go towards the Trilogy Recovery Center, which helps women suffering from substance abuse to get back on their feet. Meanwhile, magistrates approved an emergency management mutual aid and assistance agreement with the state.
If we have a large event, a tornado or a catastrophic event that requires a lot of response from our local resources, and we start to tax our resources, it's an agreement between the state that will bring in the state resources to help us respond and mitigate the event.
Fiscal court also renewed a health services agreement with the County Road Department for random drug tests and officially named Irene Grace as the Christian County Animal Shelter Director. The Graves County Health Department has seen a growing number of people who have tested positive for tuberculosis. Tuberculosis cases are divided into 2 types, active and latent, and while the department has not recorded any new active cases, they have seen a slight rise in the number of patients who have tested positive for latent TB in the past several months. Registered nurse Kathy Gifford says the rise in numbers could come from immigrants and refugees from outside of the country.
Tuberculosis, active tuberculosis, is more common in the other countries outside of the United States, not all of them, but most of them. And those countries are receiving refugees and immigrants and whatnot from those countries. Therefore, the rise in LTBI cases, if not eventually active cases.
Not everyone should be worried about being at risk.
You know, if you're never around these foreign-born people and you're not HIV positive or diabetic or have some other disease that decreases your immune system, you're not at real high risk. And that's why we have a screening tool for that, to determine whether somebody even needs a TB skin test. And if you're not at risk, we don't give it.
If you would like more information about tuberculosis, you can visit the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website at cdc.gov/TB. Later in the week, Source 16 will have a more in-depth look at tuberculosis.